applies to any other religion, you know. When you indoctrinate your children with extremist views, then they grow up to be maybe extremists, regardless of what religion you follow. And that, I don't think any religion has a monopoly on such extremism, okay? Because you'll find such elements in all the religions, or even the non-religious elements in the society.
Stories or mythology within Muslim culture that
definitely
these ideas of Jews coming in the middle of the night to
definitely not. I mean, as Muslims in the Quran, we have been instructed that we can marry the people of the book, who happen to be the Christians and the Jews. Now, if they were truly our enemies, all of them, then why do you think Allah instructed us that we are allowed to marry them? You know, marriage is more close than a friendship. You know that as a father and as a husband, right? It doesn't make sense if we label every single Jew, Christian as our enemies. It makes no sense that Allah would instruct us that we are allowed to marry them. Yes? You see what I mean? So just because you got an example of some child telling you something, yes? And that too, how old was the child? 7. There you go. So 7 years.
I asked him, who told you that Jews come and stab Muslim babies in the night? He said, it's my mother. My mother told me this.
Okay. And did you speak to the mother?
No, I haven't had the chance to speak to her. I think I might do.
Exactly,
I might do that. But these are two professional doctors, and that shocked me.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be shocked, because most of the educated people today, yes, doesn't mean just because they're educated they cannot be extremists. And I'm talking about regardless of the religion. So you go to amongst the Jews and amongst the Muslims and amongst the Christians as well, and amongst the Hindus today, lots of people who are educated, yes, they happen to be extremists. So don't try to pin this on one religion, because like I said,
you know, like mythology, like in European mythology, a parent might say, if you're bad, then the boogeyman might come and get you in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering, within Islamic culture, is there
no, we don't have any boogeyman.
The boogeyman being the Jew is going to come and stab you.
We don't have boogeyman specifically with regards to any religion. Because if you remember, during the time of Hitler, the Jews were the boogeyman.
Yeah.
Yes? And those were the Christians who were killing the Jews. So the biggest, what do you say, pogrom against the Jews was in Europe. I don't think any other religion killed more Jews than the Christians. Would you agree?
Well, as far as I know, yes.
There you go. So the boogeyman happened to change over cultures and over time, I would say, depending on where you go. But yeah, as far as pure Islam is concerned, as far as the Quran and Hadith are concerned, we don't just stereotype everyone.
I have heard from Muslims and ex-Muslims that they've grown up with anti-Semitism within their culture. So is that something that you recognise from?
Not from the Quran, not from the Quran and Hadith. Okay, because even though the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he was opposed by the Jews and even poisoned by a Jewish woman when he actually visited her. So we got our own prophet being poisoned by a Jewish lady. Yes, even then there were many Jews who would come to Islam because they saw the treatment given to them was something which they never experienced before, and maybe that's the reason they accepted Islam. The same thing happened when the Jews were getting persecuted in Europe. Guess where they went to? They went to the Muslim lands. Yes?
So you're saying you haven't come across
I personally haven't.
Or mythology about,
not from the Quran and Hadith. Not from the Quran and Hadith. No.
Shared within.
Not that I know of.
The only thing that came to mind is that
maybe you should go ask
from the Bible, the story of is it King Herod? When he heard that the Messiah was coming, and it was going to be a child of a certain age, he had children slaughtered, didn't he? Because he thought if he killed all the, was it the slaughter of the firstborn? Was it? Oh no, I'm mixing that up with something about Moses, perhaps.
Yeah.
But there was that story about.
Yeah, that's in the Bible, not in the Quran.
Yeah, I know, but is it something that's discussed?
I have no idea. I mean, maybe you should go ask a parent, because I cannot judge on some experience of somebody else, what they did or what they said.
Within your personal experience.
Yeah, I personally don't know anything from the Quran or Hadith where we find such stories.
Okay, but expand that a bit. But within wider Islamic culture, is there mythology about Jews stabbing babies?
No, not that I know of. Yes, but I'm sure, like I said, if you look at the Bible, you'll find a lot of anti-Semitism within there. Yeah? Are you a Christian, by the way?
No.
You're not? What faith would you say you are?
I don't have a faith. No, I'm a humanist.
A humanist. So do you believe in God as a humanist?
No.
You don't?
No, I think some humanists do, but
So would you say you're like an atheist or agnostic?
Well, there's two ways of describing agnosticism, so I don't think it's possible to know.
To know?
Rather than someone agnostic say, I just don't know. I'm saying my view of agnosticism is that it's impossible to know.
It's impossible. So, well, if you reject God and you say it's impossible for God to exist, then you are, by definition...
It's impossible to say whether it exists or not. It's impossible to prove.
Why do you say it's impossible?
It's not something you can do with like a scientific experiment. It's repeatable many, many times. So
yeah, but why? You're basically using the wrong tool to detect God.
Yeah, maybe. But
it's like
they're the tools that I understand. So.
It's basically like you using a metal detector to find plastic.
That's why I've probably never found him.
Because you see, if you believe in scientism, which is kind of a religion as well, if you ask me, because they are blind following, they think that they can use science to identify everything and anything. Yes, because science is a tool which you can only use to detect and explain the material world. But you see, if
there are some people who feel a need and then find themselves attracted to a faith, but I've never been
attracted to
a faith.
A faith.
Yeah,
yeah, but I believe scientism is kind of a faith. Because
it's trust. I would say it's trust.
Yeah, but even trust is blind trust, because what are you doing?
It's not blind, because you can make a test and repeat it and you get the same answer time and time again. So it's not blind trust.
Okay, how will you find scientifically whether you have consciousness or not?
Well, there are some things that you cannot prove.
Exactly, but you believe you have consciousness, right?
Well, I experience it in the way that I understand it, yeah.
Yeah, that's the fact that you exist and you know you exist. Yes, do you know you exist?
Well, I feel as if I exist.
What does it tell about you? As long as you know, you're aware of your existence, yes, and that is something that you cannot deny, then you believe in that. Yes, you don't need someone to tell you that you exist when you yourself are aware of your own existence. And you see, you have already put faith in this fact which science cannot prove.
I live my life without the need, or without feeling a need to even approach that subject about.
Yeah, that's because you have accepted it already. You see what I mean? That's why you say I don't need to identify and detect and find evidence for this, because you have already accepted this within yourself and you have believed it now. And you know it, that you exist. Yeah? Now science cannot prove this empirically, if that's what you're suggesting, that your consciousness exists by, I don't know, putting you in some sort of a machine or some sort of a scanner. You see what I mean? They can find your organs and your lungs and your other elements within your body, which are material things, but your consciousness, they cannot detect under a scanner. You see what I mean?
Yeah, it's going.
So you can't have a CT scan or an MRI to detect your consciousness.
It's like water off the duck's back for me, because
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I understand
the reason
what you're saying.
Yeah, the reason you're not bothered about it is because you've already accepted it.
Yeah, it's I understand your logic, but it doesn't lead me anywhere.
Yeah, but you see, your logic itself emanates from your consciousness. Your logic, your rationality, your thinking, all these faculties of cognition that you utilize to understand science comes from your consciousness. Your entire basis of what you're thinking. I know we have to, because obviously I can't respond to some anecdotal experiences people have. You see what I mean? So So I have to talk to you about your own experiences. And like you told me that you believe in science and you believe having faith in science, but that is based on your material world.
If you were born a Buddhist, you would have found yourself eventually coming to Islam.
Yes, if I use the same faculties which I just told you about, then I would eventually go for what I consider and feel and experience as the truth. Okay, because for me to live and completely ignore my own existence, let alone everything else, is basically myself fooling no one but myself.
It's just an accident that you happen to be born a...
Yeah, but there are many Buddhists who became Muslims. You ask them this question, ask them why did they become Muslims, and they will probably give you the same explanation, the same reason. That they were looking and searching.
Many people of many religions that haven't become Muslims.
I know, but many have as well. Yes, but you ask them this question, why did you become from a Buddhist to a Muslim, or from a Hindu to a Muslim, or from a Christian or a Jew to a Muslim, and they will give you their reasoning and their experiences, which most of the time, from what I've seen, is they use their rationality and their logic to understand things rather than just going by emotions.
But the religion that you are is mostly an accident of birth.
What do you mean accident of birth?
You are the religion of your...
I don't believe anything is an accident. I believe in destiny.
You're a twinkle in your parents' eyes, yes, but...
well, aren't your children?
Muslim parents don't create Buddhists, do they?
No, but many Muslims might become Buddhists. Yeah? Because the thing is, you know, when you grow up, then you have the independence to inquire about your world. And this is something which is well noted in the Quran, that Allah actually instructs us to look around you and then to ask questions based on them. Yes? So Allah tells a human being to ask yourself this question, like who created you, whether you created yourself or did somebody create you. And when I say you, I don't mean you as being born from your parents, because we can always go back to your parents' parents and so on. Eventually you came to this world, you know. You're not a result of an accident.
So okay, you've acknowledged that a Muslim can become a Buddhist.
Yes.
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah, and you tolerate that. That's okay. So what if a child of yours became of a different religion, changed religion?
Yeah.
So how would you deal with that?
Well, obviously, I won't like it. But I will. Say again?
Would you shun them, or
would I shun them?
Yeah.
No, I would speak to them, ask them reasons why.
Would you go to their wedding?
Oh, you're asking me hypothetical questions.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'll do, but the question right now is, I think you should answer about what you would do if there was a life after death.
I would go to anyone's wedding. If a friend of mine said I'm getting married, regardless of whatever religion they were, I would go.
Yeah, but for me, you know, wedding is like a one-day event or two-day event at the most. Yes, but I'm talking about your eternity. If you die tomorrow,
your child became a different religion.
I don't know. I think I can only answer that when I'm in that situation.
You know,
I can't give you hypothetical answers right now.
I've seen someone not being asked this question. The Houses of Parliament, there is a woman who is the chaplain to the Houses of Parliament. Just for descriptive reasons, I said, well, she's a black woman. I don't know if you've seen her. She's been on the programme on a Sunday morning, The Big Question, and she was asked then as an Anglican, I don't know, would you call her a vicar, but maybe a chaplain. She was asked, would she go to a humanist wedding? If her friend was a humanist and they were getting married at a humanist service ceremony, would she go to that wedding? And they were good friends. And she couldn't answer on national television. It was severely embarrassing for her.
Yeah, but you're talking about a woman who's not even related to someone. You're asking her to go to a wedding.
Yeah, but really good friends of somebody.
Yes.
Say a really good friend of yours was a humanist and they asked you to go to the wedding. Would you go to it? She couldn't answer. She refused, just like you now.
No, I'm not refusing. Don't pin that on me. I said I cannot answer unless I know I'm quite aware of that situation, what kind of situation it is. Because, you know, as a parent, obviously I love my children, regardless of what they do or how they are.
This is something for you to go away and think about that.
No, but what is more important for you? A wedding, which happens in a day or two, or a life after that, which might be for all eternity? What would you do if you realize that there really is a God after you die? that there really is a day of judgment after you die, and that you will be accountable for all the things that you have done in this world?
Well, I live my life as if I would be accountable for the things that I've done.
How do you know? How would you judge what is good or what is bad?
I can work it out for myself.
No,
empathy and
but everyone's good and bad is subjective. Don't you believe that?
Well, I live it. Have you heard of the principle of the golden rule?
Which golden rule?
Well, it's called a golden rule, and there are maybe a couple of versions, a few versions of it, that you wouldn't treat people in a way that you wouldn't want to be treated yourself. So,
what does that mean? What does that mean?
Well,
means means you generally treat people nicely. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it is as I said it means. That you treat people in a way that you'd want to be treated yourself, and also don't treat people in a way that you wouldn't want to be treated yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that goes without saying, you know. Everybody, yeah, why not? Because treating people nicely is something that every religion preaches. It's not something that a humanist came up with. If that's what you think.
Some religious people, well no, it predates most religions. This comes from
really?
Many thousands of years ago.
How old is humanist religion?
Oh, well, as old as the Tibetan religion.
How do you know that? Name me a humanist during the time of, say, Abraham.
Well, I think Buddha, he was a humanist.
Yeah, Abraham came much later after Abraham.
I'm not sure.
You see what I mean?
I don't know what.
Exactly. What you're saying is speculation. A humanist, most of the values that the humanist got from is most likely from religions. Yeah? No. What no? You name me a humanist during the time of Abraham. Go on. You can't. The reason you can't is because
thousands of years ago, this idea of the golden rule existed thousands of years ago, and it came about.
How many years is thousands of years ago? 2,000, 3,000?
5,000 years.
Okay, name me a humanist 5,000 years ago. Go on. You cannot, my friend. The reason for that is because, like I said,
I mean,
religions. Listen.
What year was Buddha? What year was it?
Buddha was just after, I think, probably around, just after maybe Jesus or something, around that time,
no.
Or maybe 600 years before Jesus.
I think
it can't be more than that. Right?
Underestimating. Okay. I think you're I'm not certain.
No, Buddha is not that long ago. Trust me. Maybe 600. Like I said, maybe 600 years before Jesus. Okay.
The golden rule is reappears throughout religious history and in non-religious history as well.
Yeah. How old is the golden rule? Tell me. Exactly. So don't assume things you don't know.
Yeah, but it's as old as humanity.
Yeah, but when you say humanity, for me that is Adam, during the time of Adam. Okay, and Adam for us as a Muslim and as a Jew, someone who's a Jew and someone who's a Christian, was the first man. And he was instructed by God, which means he got religious instructions how to lead a way of life, and he has to abide by those instructions, and that to me is a religion.
People who have no religious instruction can still recreate this law without any.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a universal, what do you say,
because it works.
Unwritten rule and morality. Like, for example, killing is bad, raping is bad, stealing is bad.
Yeah, so these things don't necessarily come from God.
No, hold on. But one thing you forget is this: human nature is such that if you realize that there is no consequences for your action, then nothing will stop you from taking into account. Really?
Yeah.
Are you telling me a humanist never lies?
Well, that's a different.
Why is it different? To me, lying is one of the major sins. You see what I mean? And that's why I was telling you earlier, what is good and what is bad are subjective. If you do not have religion as your,
you're not going to always act in a moral way.
I didn't say you'll always act immorally. I'm saying there's nothing as a consequence to someone who doesn't practice a religion to uphold their objective moralities, because they don't have objective moralities as a base.
The fact that you need a book to know morality, what is right or wrong. How do I know that you yourself?
I don't say I need a book.
Moral person that
No. I did not say.
You can't work it out.
I did not say.
Read it and open the book.
Yeah, I did not say I need a book to know that lying is bad.
Okay, you work that out for yourself.
What about you? Do you think lying is bad?
Well, sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad, because you can help people by lying sometimes.
Yeah. What about if it was just your benefit?
Well, that might be selfish. So,
but do you think, for a humanist, hold on. For a humanist,
that's a moral.
Imagine this. For a humanist, is there any consequence if you lie as a selfish person to get yourself out of trouble? Is there any consequence for that?
Kids learn this from a very early age that they can get away with things. They were like 3-4 years old and they'll lie because they know.
Yeah, I know. But would you as a father, would you encourage that for your children?
No, well, you used to say up to a father to teach.
To teach what? Not to lie. Yes, but when the father himself says, as long as you don't get away, as long as you get away by lying, then you can. What would you say as a humanist to that person? Would you say it's immoral? Because that's his view.
A situation where it is good to lie.
Yeah, I can't think of many situations where it's good to lie. In fact, as a Muslim, yes, there are situations where, for example, if two people are arguing, yes, and you can reconcile between them by a lie, provided it doesn't harm anyone, but it reconciles them, then that is something which you use as an exception, but not the rule. Yes, normally the rule is you do not tell a lie. For example, if you, yeah, you can. For example, if somebody wants to, I don't know, there are situations today in India where some of these extremist Hindus are telling Muslims at the edge of a sword or at the edge of a gun, yes, to say, I don't know, say something like some religious words from Hinduism, like say Hare Krishna, Hare Ram or something like that. Yes, these Muslims are basically now forced to say something against their wishes. Yes, they are told to renounce their religion and to encourage and acknowledge the religion which they are opposed to, in the sense of having more than one God. Now, this is called shirk, one of the greatest sins in Islam. But in the Quran, Allah says that if your life is in danger, then Allah gives you a leeway here as an exception. Yes, that even though you're telling, even though you're under caution, so you're under threat to your life. So in that situation, you can tell a lie, but it's a lie which is just basically, it's to protect yourself. But in your heart, you know you're a Muslim. In your heart, you haven't given up your religion. So here, Allah is telling you that your life is more important and is given a higher status in terms of safeguarding your life against someone who is coercing you to say things against your religion, against your will. So these are the two examples I give you. Another example is, for example, if your wife...
Let me give you an example.
Okay, go on.
You know, the electoral polls have been coming out with wrong results for years. People lie about who they vote for.
Yeah.
Because they find that the general public gives people a hard time if they admit they're a conservative, for example. So they don't say they're conservative because the public bullies them to be conservative.
Yeah. I mean, that's your right not to say, but this is what I'm saying is that as a humanist, what I'm saying, do you have any consequence? What is the consequence if somebody lies and gets somebody else in trouble? For example, they bear a false witness or false testimony.
Let me say, it's human nature. When you do something you know to be wrong, you feel bad about it.
Yeah, you feel guilty, okay.
Yeah, so to avoid...
But that's not a consequence.
Yeah, well,
that's not a consequence.
People are good because it makes them feel good.
No, but your guilty conscience your guilty conscience might disappear eventually.
Yeah, but when it comes to
that person who might be jailed because of your false testimony or your lie is the one who really is suffering because of your lie. Yeah, so as a humanist, do you have any consequences that has real life consequences other than just your...
I can become a miserable person, a miserable, bitter person, if I don't admit to myself that I've done
No, you don't, because you know, if somebody...
When the next dilemma comes along, I'll remember how bad I felt because I did whatever. Yeah. I'm not going to do that again because I felt awful for months and years after I did this thing, so I won't do it again.
Yeah, but
I felt so miserable.
This feeling of yours...
I turned to drink because I did something that was really
so
bad.
this feeling of yours,
I won't do that.
This feeling of yours, the reason you went drinking is because to forget these problems of yours. Am I right?
Well, so
it's not hypothetical. You just gave me a situation which is very, if you ask me, this happens in the real world. It does. Many people do drink to forget their troubles.
And hopefully people become wiser as they get older and say, well, I'm not going to do that again because I know how bad that made me feel.
So basically to stop one sin, I would consider lying a sin, you go into another sin, i.e. drinking, which harms your body, which is also a sin. So you see,
you don't have to turn to religion to deal with these issues.
No, I agree. Look, what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that there are no humanists who tell the truth most of the time and do not lie. I'm not saying that. There are good people, whether you're humanist, whether you're an atheist, whether you're agnostic, and whether you're religious or non-religious. There are good and bad people in all the spectrum. Yes. However, the question to you is this: other than feeling guilty, there is no consequences, because as far as I know, that person you gave false testimony against is behind bars. He's the one having.
I might get found out at the end, you know.
Exactly.
It might be a real
exactly my point. But if you don't get found out, he's one behind the bars. His family is the one that's going to suffer. If he has children, they're going to suffer. You see how important it is to acknowledge that lying is wrong, and to understand that there is consequences for that. So that's the reason I asked you about the life after death earlier on. That if the life after death is real, what have you prepared for that?
As I said before, I live my life as if everything I do in it will be judged.
Judged by whom?
By whoever wishes to judge me.
Whoever meaning what? After life or before life? Sorry, after death or before?
Regardless.
No, I'm asking. You see,
I'm doing it
okay,
I can.
Your answer doesn't.
Whether there is an afterlife or not, I'm living my life as best as I can.
Yeah. But that's subjective, isn't it? When you say my life as best as I can, yes? So that is subjective. And also the fact that if you do something wrong and you're not found out, whether it's lying or whether it is some other major crime or something like that, there is no consequence for you.
Yes, there is. I've explained the consequence to you, but
if you're found out, I said if you're not found out.
I've already explained that to you.
About a guilty feeling?
Yes. So, but what you then said is forget about that.
No, I didn't say forget about that.
Give me another one. Well, I've already given you the one.
No, I didn't say forget about. What I'm saying is that there are many people who have a guilty conscience when they commit the first I don't know, when they the first crime or offense or a lie or something like that. Yes, but if they become, it becomes a reputation. Yes, if they become compulsive liars, that guilty feeling goes away.
That's in your opinion?
No, it's not my opinion. This is a fact. There are many people who have no guilty conscience. I'm talking about people. No, it's not subjective. There are repeat offenders, and that includes people who are compulsive liars, people who are compulsive pickpockets, who steal a lot. Honestly, those people, if you ask them and you question them, they will give you all sorts of justification for their crimes.
I'm getting very hot here in the sun. I think maybe I need to stand in the shade for a bit.
No problem. If you want, we can move to the shade. But what I'm saying is that there has to be consequences for sins and for the crimes that people commit. And this is only fair in a system where you believe that there is a God and God knows everything. And ultimately, you are going to be accountable in front of God Almighty, because He is the one who can provide the best justice. Because I don't think people like drug barons. Yeah, let's move. Guys, can we move to the? Hello, cameraman. Guys, can we move down there, inshallah?